This topic on Delta Math is finding the slope graphically. Okay, again, we're comparing two pieces of information. We've got one number line and another number line. I say that all the time because it's what we constantly are doing in 7th and 8th grade. And we're not, so the slope is actually the relationship between your x and your y, and it's your y over your x. So it's the change from any 2 points on your line where you're like, all right, how do I get from this point to this point? If I just said, hey, how do you get from this point to this point? How would you tell that to me? Like, you would probably use words like up, down, left, right. Okay, and that's what we're doing with that math right there. Okay, the trick is you have to think of it as like a city map, right? And you want to think of all of those lines as like streets going through a map, and those are all intersections. You want to find the perfect intersections to be at on your graph. And so there's lots of options here. So here's one spot where they perfectly crisscross with an intersection. Here's another spot where they perfectly crisscross with an intersection. And here's a spot. Now there are some that are close, but those are the ones that are really crisscrossing. And if you do it right, you're going to notice that those spots are evenly spaced out. Okay, the other two would have been off the line. Okay, and I mean, they would go on forever. Theoretically, they go on forever and never in both directions. But we only have so much time and so much paper to write on in our math classes. So if you want to find the slope graphically, what they're saying is you're telling us how far up and then over we're going. Sometimes it's down and over. But if you, this is what I say to my students, I say left dot elevator run, left dot elevator run. I got that from my friend, Mr. Guiley, from my last job. He gave me that little tip. And I think that's a good way to do it, because you can go right dot and then to the left, but it's best to just move left to right, left to right, left to right, because then that will remind you if you're going up the elevator, you've got a positive slope. If you're going down the elevator, you've got a negative slope. So I'm going to compare these two dots. Okay, I'm going to pick the left dot, and I'm going to take the elevator up 3 lines and then over. I need to make sure I count right. 1, 2, 3 up, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over. So my slope is 3/5. It's that simple. If I counted these, I would go up 3 over 5. So it's the same thing, right? I did it right. If I wanted to compare these two, you might be like, ha, Mrs. Landers gotcha. It's not going to be 3/5. Well, smarty pants, it's 6/10, and 6/10 simplifies to 3/5. So, ha, you took your elevator up 3, you ran 5, and you made another dot. You could go on and on forever, but no one really wants to do that. Okay, so that's what you can see it looking like with the way that they've got it there. And then here's another one, same idea, different graph. I'm going to hunt down my perfect intersections where my line crisscrosses my intersections. There's a few more on this one. Okay, and I did that, and I can see all these spots. I know it's probably a little bit hard to see on the video. And I'm going to go up my elevator 1, and I'm going to run 4 lines. Up 1, run 4, up 1, run 4. So +1, +4. Now, if I was going down and over, make sure that top number is negative. You've got a negative slope there. So I don't have a negative example, but I want you to know that. There was something else I was going to tell you, and I forget. Oh, yes, I know. When you start out learning this, you're going to probably have simple graphs that go by 1s, but you can also, these might be labeled, they might jump by 5s or 10s or 100s or 50s or 25s. So it's not just about counting the lines, it's about counting, it's like saying, okay, I went from -7 to -3. Oh, I jumped 4 when I ran, or I ran 4, or I went from 2 to 3. This point was at 2. The y coordinate was at 2, and then the y coordinate was at 3. So I jumped up my elevator 1 floor. So make sure you're paying attention to the labels of your axes as well.